Hi guys, Brooke here for Legal Talk Tuesday, and welcome to everybody. Hope everyone is having a great week. Today, I kind of wanted to talk to you. It's Business Law Week this week, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about small businesses and to kind of give you a basic, so this is not all inclusive, but a basic checklist of what you need to get started and launch your small business. This time of year, we get a lot of people calling who kind of just want to talk through what it's going to look like, what they're going to need legally to make sure that the business is protected and set up correctly. Oftentimes, summer and then the beginning of the year, because everybody has made these resolutions and worked and decided, start on a clean slate. So the times of year that you think about kind of starting new are our busiest times for people wanting to start businesses. And so there, right now is a great time. We're about to go into the summer. Kids are about to be out of school, and hopefully you guys can turn some of your small business dreams into a reality. So just a few things. First, it seems kind of basic, but picking a name, it's really important not only for your marketing and branding, but it's really, really important to do a very extensive name search before you even, you know, try to file it officially as a business, before you start really buying things, investing in things, because I've seen a lot of businesses that know what name they want. They haven't really done a search on whether or not that name is not only available, and I mean, you want to do a search within the Secretary of State's website to see if there's a conflicting name in Arkansas, of course, but also you don't want to invest all this money in signage and websites, marketing, just everything to build up your brand, and then later receive a cease and desist because you're infringing on somebody's trademark. And so you want to make sure to be very careful. Obviously, you can do a quick Google search. You can look through the Secretary of State's, but we really highly advise that you do a trademark search, and you reach out and have an attorney actually make sure that this name is available and you're not going to be conflicting with someone else's trademark. Because then what happens is it's really expensive if you want to fight it a lot of times. Also, you may have to rebrand, which is a nightmare because you spend all this time and energy building your business under your brand, and you don't want to have to do that. So after you've kind of settled on the name, you want to form a business and choose a business structure. So there's a bunch of different legal structures that you can choose. And each one of those different structures provides different organizational options with different tax consequences, liability issues, things like that. You really need to learn about the structure really thoroughly that you want to do. I always actually send my clients, if they haven't already, to talk to their CPA either before or after they've spoken with me or an accountant, so that way they can really discuss their options with them as well. I can give them the legal perspective, and then they can get the perspective from their tax professional who has a more holistic view of their overall financial situation and goals. Just some examples real quick of types of business entities. There are sole proprietorships, which really just means that you and your business are indistinguishable. You're the same person. There are partnerships. There's different kind of partnerships. There's limited. There's general partnerships. There's also what we most frequently help out with, and that's LLCs. There are corporations, and then also I have to distinguish this a lot for people, but there are also corporations that have an S election. You can also choose that S election for LLCs. A lot of people come to me and say that they want an S Corp. An S Corp is not technically a separate legal business entity. It is a tax status. So it's the way that you're going to be taxed by the IRS. And so it's an election that you're able to make on top of whatever business entity, and the ones that we're most frequently helping with are LLCs and corporations. And then that designates you for certain tax purposes if that makes sense for your business. So an S corporation by itself is not a separate legal entity. It's a type of tax treatment. You want to get all of your paperwork in order. So once you've actually chosen that entity, you're going to need to comply with all your state and federal requirements for that specific entity, which is, again, it's going to vary. And I'm going to just kind of give you an overview of a limited liability company, an LLC, and what generally what type of things that you're going to need for that, because that is what we most frequently see. You're going to have to complete, again, that business search, do that with the Secretary of State's website at a minimum. You want to register your LLC with the Secretary of State, and there's a fee for that. The fee is different if you file online than if you send it in. You also are going to want to create an operating agreement. You want to make sure that, if it is required to create bylaws, sometimes people will create those for LLCs. That's more applicable for corporations, but you just want to consider that depending on what type of business you're in. You also want to identify an agent for service of process. This is also called a registered agent. So you want to make sure that you have somebody at a physical address that can be served any kind of legal paperwork or otherwise. You want to make sure that you have an EIN number from the IRS. And then again, if you want that S Corp election status treatment, then you are going to need to file that form with the IRS. Next, you need some contracts. So I'm still, I guess I am and I'm not sometimes surprised about the amount of business people who, do not have contracts. I know sometimes it's difficult to get those things set up front. Maybe you're kind of bootstrapping because you're a startup, or you don't think you necessarily need them. A lot of people are, oh, well, I want to see the best in everybody, and we're going to operate on this handshake. But it is so important to have stuff in writing, because when you have things in writing, you're more likely to prevail in court if there is some kind of issue that needs to be resolved. So always get everything in writing. If you're at a point where you can't afford to do something super formal, just try to find ways to at least have things in writing to point to, because that's going to give you a little bit more teeth than just we shook and said this. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to have those things in writing. Things like engagement letters, depending on what you're doing, if you're a service or like a product business. But engagement letters, vendor agreements, service agreements, employee agreements, if you have employees, just really sit down and look at what type of relationships and interactions that you're going to have with other people that could arise in some kind of dispute or conflict. And again, that's something we help our clients with, but you want to make sure to try to have those things in writing. You can really put a lot of different terms in there to protect yourself. You can decide which law governs. If you're entering in a relationship in business with someone out of state, it's more costly for you if there's a dispute to have to go to their state to litigate it. So if you have these contracts in place, you can say, hey, I'm in Arkansas. Our governing law, as far as how we operate, and if there's a conflict, is going to be in Arkansas. Non-disclosure agreements and NDAs is what they're often referred to, are often really important, especially if you're speaking to people about your business that are prospective employees or business partners, anybody that you're disclosing any kind of proprietary or business information. It's really important to have that in place. Another consideration is your intellectual property. So this is definitely something a lot of people push off. Again, it's not necessarily inexpensive, but you a really important thing to your brand, important thing to your business, something that gives you a little bit of competitive advantage, especially if you're trying to take investors, is really to make sure that you're protecting any intellectual property you have. Most common for our clients is going to be maybe your name and your logo, maybe some, slogans or things that are proprietary or really important to you and you as a brand. So make sure that you're addressing those things. Make sure you have those things in place, especially before you try to get into partnerships with or, take on investors. Just some of the basic things for addressing some of these intellectual property issues, again, company name. So that company name becomes your intellectual property right when you incorporate your startup as an LLC, or whatever business entity, but specifically we're talking about LLC. So you want to make sure that you're really being intentional about selecting that name, and because you're going to be selling that name more than just your products. So make sure that you are trying to protect that. Your internet domain is really important too. So you need to make sure that it is clear and you can distinguish it from other similar names. social media accounts. Immediately after you get set up, go to every social media account, even if you don't think you're going to use it. I'm talking Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, everything. Go grab that handle, even if you don't plan to use the accounts, because one, you want to make sure that you have those just in case you do want to use it, but also um, there are oftentimes we have to counsel clients who have these fake account. Well, they're not really fake accounts, but they're accounts using their name, and maybe stealing their things or operating as something else. And you don't want to create that confusion with your clients or with your brand. And especially in some instances, we've seen people really abuse this, and really do some harm and damage to those brand names. So you want to make sure you just go grab those, and then any trade secrets, that's customer information, data, business plans, financial things. You want to make sure you're protecting those as well. Trademarks get really tricky. It's important that you work with a professional with that. But I mean, it's words, symbols, logos. I mean, even the slightest little change can make the difference of whether you're going to get that trademarked or not. And so, again, really important for brand awareness and to really build your business and to protect your business. So you do want to make sure, in addition to that name search, that you are doing a trademark search, even if you're not moving forward with pursuing that trademark immediately. So make sure to do that. File your trademark. You file it at the state level too. A lot of people don't know that you can get a state trademark and a federal trademark. So you can ask your attorney about that as well. Another thing is website considerations. So if you have a website, you really need to make sure, especially if people are, if you're providing services through your website, or if you are selling things on the website, you want to have things like privacy policies, disclaimers, terms of service, things like that really help to minimize your liability by setting those expectations up front to the people who are using your website, and making sure that if you have anything, that you don't have that interaction with the client and they're just coming to your website to purchase it, that it really outlines any agreement that you, as the person that's selling whatever product it is, wants the agreement to look like. And so it's really, really important to take that precautionary measure. So again, consider things on your website like terms of service, privacy policies, disclaimers, and if necessary, some kind of a client agreement or user agreement. So those are just a few things. That is not, like I said, it's not an exhaustive list of things. Those are just some of the big main things that you need to consider when you are starting your business. Of course, there are other things that you need to do along with this. You need to make sure that you have separate bank accounts for business and personal matters. Also, consider getting a credit card in your business, because that's going to help you to build up some, business credibility and credit. You want to file things with the Secretary of State. You have to do that annually. So sometimes people don't realize you have to pay a fee annually for your business, and you also have some documents that you have to file annually. You need to make sure that you have policies, procedures, and handbooks, things in place, and just do an annual self-audit and review those things. You have to file separate taxes for your business, which I believe we all know. And then you need to make sure that you are applying with complying with whatever you need to based on your business entity. So for instance, a corporation, you could sell stock. So you need to make sure that you are keeping those ledgers for any stock that's been transferred. So that way you have a good record of that. And then check with any compliance for any other laws and any other requirements that vary by state to state. So just anything that's going to keep you in good standing with the Secretary of State, specifically with your professional licensure or anything else. So that's just kind of an overview of some really important things to keep in mind when you're getting started with your business. It's a super exciting time, so you want to make sure that up front you are protecting yourself and really setting yourself up for long-term success. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And next week is estate planning week, so we'll be back with Legal Talk Tuesday. Laura will be here at 11:30 Central Time. Thanks so much and have a great week. Bye.